Ray-Ban Meta glasses come with open-ear audio, so you can listen to your favorite music without blocking out the world around you.
Hey Meta, play Gorgeous.
Here's Gorgeous by Doja Cat.
You can also ask Meta AI questions.
Hey Meta, when's Doja Cat's next concert?
Doja Cat is playing at the Los Angeles Theater next Tuesday.
Sweet.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, available at Ray-Ban stores and other authorized retailers.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary listeners, heroes and heroines, crook and crookians, Steve Perry and Jonathan Kane, heck, even Neil Schoen. The audio performance you are about to enjoy discusses casinos and gambling. We do not recommend gambling with money you cannot afford to lose or that is needed to pay bills. If you have a gambling problem, contact your problem gambling hotline. If you do not know how to contact your problem gambling hotline, send an email to help@casinocombat.com. We'll find that number for you and provide it to you. Our hosts' past performances are not indicative of anyone's future results, including his own. All materials presented here are based on actual facts. Names and dates are changed to protect the innocent and the guilty. Some events unrelated to outcomes may be omitted in the interest of brevity and clarity. It's me, it's TRG, the Ramblin Gambler. I just went with my lovely wife, Mrs. TRG, the radiant goddess of casino combat, went on a dice cruise with Premier Casino hosting. Lots of great craps players on that cruise. Lots of great craps play to tell you all about as part of this episode today. It was wonderful. I can't wait to tell you about it. That said, with so many craps players on the ship, understandably, we wanted to play, and we ended up working hard to get my fill. Everybody wants a thrill. Paying anything to roll the dice just one more time. And of course, among the group, some will win, some will lose, some will be called Deacon Blues, unfortunately, but it goes on and on and on. We have already comped ourselves with the help of Premier Casino hosting on Dice Cruise for near the end of the year. Cannot wait to do that again. What a wonderful group of people. What a wonderful experience. And I do want to tell you about that. If this is your next time joining me, thank you very much, as always, for the gift of your time. If this is your first time and you are wondering, what is this all about? Why did this come up on my device? Why did this come up as a result of my search? Why am I getting mashed up with this? What is this about? This is about winning the game of casino gambling. Tips, techniques, yes, Mitch, even a few tricks, stories from the road, and the tortured use of song lyrics and movie references in an attempt to inform and entertain. Every episode, we have a set of segments I like to call the battle plan. This episode, our battle plan looks like this. We are going to start with a Questions My Sons Asked segment and review a slot play question I received recently in an email. After that, Mrs. TRG is going to join us for an Oasis segment to review the pool complex on Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas. And then I will do a travel segment to share my thoughts and impressions from the cruise as well as our result. Then I'll be continuing my focus on beginner content with a Core Koncepts segment where I want to take a look at what playing to win the month, not the table or even the day, can actually mean. Finally, we have a very special virtual VIP lounge segment this episode. Inner Circle member Gator Gambler, fifth to the ring, was in Las Vegas recently for the 100,000 backyard barbecue blackjack tournament. He recorded some information about that, about his experiences with the tournament, and how he did to share with us all today. And so he is going to essentially take over the virtual VIP lounge and share that information with us today. Should be a lot of fun to hear from him. Before we start all of that, I have a couple of items from the Casino Combat Galaxy, the TRG-verse, as Same Bet likes to call it. The first item from the Casino Combat Galaxy that I wanted to touch on comes to us by way of Excelsior Brigade member, Questing Scholar, and comes from something that he shared with me, with all of us actually, in the all new, all very real virtual VIP lounge, compliments of Slack. So thrilled that we got to create this real virtual space. That's kind of a contradiction in terms, I guess, but it is a real space where a whole bunch of us, Pay the Don't, Dr. ECE, Equine Ensign, Nakatomi Tony. I'm forgetting some names and I'm not leaving anybody out, but there are a number of us who have created this virtual space for us to hang out, share stories, share techniques, share experiences, share travel updates, trip updates, all of those things that all friends do when hanging out in a virtual VIP lounge. And if that sounds interesting to you, you are welcome to join us. It's a two-step process. We don't ask for much here, but we do ask for participation. That's what this is all about. If you would like to hang out with us in the virtual VIP lounge, if you would like to hang out with an exclusive secret society of excellent gamblers, you've got to do two things. The first thing you've got to do is, if you have not already, listen to episode 22 and learn about the games that are hidden in the podcast, and then find my real-world home casino, Casino 2's name and location. One leads to the other. That's not two things there. That's just one thing. Find the real-world name of my home casino, Casino 2, described in many, many episodes, a wonderful property. Piece that together. You have 3 attempts to send that information to me and join the Excelsior Brigade. Then, as a member of the Excelsior Brigade, you have to find someone who is already a virtual VIP lounge member, namely Nakatomi Tony, Same Bet, or Equine Ensign. Find a way to message them in the real world. Email, text message on Facebook, message on Instagram, whatever happens to work for you, but find them and ask them if you can join us. It's as simple as that. If you want to be one of us, ask one of us, and you are more than welcome to join us and hang out in the virtual VIP lounge. But while we were hanging out in the virtual VIP lounge, Questing Scholar shared something interesting. And that is, and he, I think, also may have shared this in the Facebook group, which would be another way to find someone and ask someone, I guess. He's had a number of successes. He's had a number of inspiring successes. He's got a tough situation. He's got a 3 to 4 hour drive to Atlantic City as his best close option, and he's got a small electronic casino nearby. So he's made some monthly trips to Atlantic City. He's had some success. I'm sure it's a long day, particularly without a hotel stay. And then he hit a rough patch here. And he didn't have a winning day, despite doing everything right, despite doing everything, from what I read, that any skilled player would have done. He just took small negative exits repeatedly without a positive exit and had to pack it up and call it a day and head back home. And that can happen to anybody, and it has happened to everybody. And here was the interesting revelation from my point of view on his part. A few days after he shared that with us in the virtual VIP lounge, he posted it up on Facebook with the observation that we need to be accountable to someone or something. That is one of our casino wisdoms. And he was sharing that as much as he believes in that casino wisdom, he finds that when he wins, when he has success, he wants to go put it in his Excel spreadsheet. He wants to go add those winning numbers to his list of accomplishments. He wants to go online and share with the virtual VIP lounge and to share with the squad in the Casino Combat Squad Facebook group. He's motivated to go do those things. And he's finding about himself that when he has a loss, it's harder to do that. It's harder to put that loss on paper. It's harder to go share that with other people. He's right. It is harder. And that is why I have such appreciation is the wrong word. Admiration is the wrong word. It's just seeing someone else go through it, develop, grow, mature, pick your word, pick your phrase, level up is maybe a great word. And that's kind of the point I wanted to make here, is that I have tried to shortcut the process that I went through for all of you. And maybe I'm just a slow learner and it just took me longer than it should have, while admitting that when I was starting out, I only had 2 places to play, and those involved long travel times. I got a lot better when I could play a lot more. As gambling came to Casino 2 and then eventually to my local casino, I leveled up faster. And one of the reasons I do this podcast is to help others through that leveling up process. That move from non-gambler or amateur gambler or recreational entertainment gambler to more skilled gambler that is trying to win the game in some fashion or in multiple fashions. And it's gratifying to see someone else go, I'm seeing in myself that I'm not applying this casino wisdom necessarily as with as much enthusiasm. When I lose is when I win, and it's harder. And it is harder. One of the most difficult things about being a successful casino gambler is looking yourself right in the eye, right in the mirror, and telling yourself the truth about a loss. And as much as I would like to think that this podcast is going to move all of you that want to make the journey from 0 to 100 in every skill area, the reality is it's not. That's probably not realistic. It takes a lot of wisdom for Questing Scholar to realize that internal feeling and react to it and take good steps anyway. To go to a group of people in multiple formats and say, this is what I'm feeling, and it took me a few days, but I'm doing it anyway. And that is emblematic of the path. That is emblematic of the journey. The ents, the can'ts, won'ts, and don't have that self-realization. Don't take that step. They hear the wisdom, be accountable to someone or something, and then they don't apply it. See, that ent, they don't apply it. They don't have the internal strength to apply that information, to apply that wisdom, because that's what wisdom is. Wisdom is knowledge applied to a situation. And that's why I have so much respect for Questing Scholar for seeing it and then not doing it, being doing it and doing it well, and coming forward and saying, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm handling it. And that is leveling up. But that's also showing me and all of you that it is not a light switch. It is not, I heard the wisdom, and now I do it every time perfectly, without a struggle, without any difficulty. That's not what this is. This is a process. This is a skill. And this is a difficult skill. It's a losing game, folks. They built a losing game. They documented their losing game. The math of the losing game is known. And I dared to suggest, no, I'm going to go a step before the back. I dared to believe that I could find a way to beat them. And admittedly beat them with a combination of their money and their comps and their gifts and the other things that one half of the operation, the promotions department, the player development department gives away to get people in the door, and then using that in a way to offset some of the house's advantage. Right? I dared to suggest that the impossible could be done and set out to do it in my own life. And then I had the sheer nerve and gall to go out onto the interwebs and tell all of you I believed it was possible. And some of you were brave enough, people like Questing Scholar, were brave enough to say, I'm going to go try to do this. And it's easy when it goes well, and it's difficult when it doesn't go well. And I just think he has perfectly illustrated that it is a process. It is a matter of learning. It is a matter of improving, getting better, trying when you don't have success, and through it all, documenting it and being accountable so you have a true picture of what you've done. So brava, chef's kiss, all the flowers to Questing Scholar for doing the hard parts of being good at this. It's easy to be good when you're winning. It is very difficult to be good when you're losing and to see the bigger picture. And so I did. I wanted to give him his flowers, but I also think there are many, many lessons to be learned there in hearing about that and seeing that. Next up, as we talk about things that are going on in the casino combat galaxy, we had some really cool, really great news. It turns out there is a book called Casino Gambling for Dummies by Kevin Blackwood. I love this handle. King of the Cards, First to the Buffet, and Swain Sheps. I really hope I've pronounced that correctly. Apologies if I have not. And it turns out that in the audio version of this book, there is an appendix that recommends additional resources and additional podcasts and additional materials. And at the very top of the podcast list, which may simply mean that it is arranged alphabetically, I gotta be fair here. I don't know. I have not listened to the entire list, but I did get to hear this sound clip from the audio book.
Casino Combat, with a K, hosted by the Ramblin Gambler, an unabashed casino enthusiast who loves to share his regular trip reports, talk to knowledgeable guests, and discuss essential methods for getting the most out of your casino experience.
Now, I don't know how much Kevin and Swain had to do with setting up the appendix. For all I know, AI searched the internet, made the list, and it was simply read into the audiobook. I have no way of knowing. That said, just a quick look will show you that these two authors are titans in the world of gambling and professional gambling. The very idea that they would include our humble little podcast as a useful resource, well, admittedly for dummies trying to learn the game of casino gambling. I'm kidding, but what a tremendous compliment for our podcast. Certainly humbled to be included. Certainly appreciative of any ears that they bring us, of anyone who joins our squad because they heard the recommendation there. Just very, very flattered to have that happen. It was brought to my attention, and I wanted to bring it to all of yours. And then the last thing that I want to share with you before we move on with the rest of our battle plan is also humbling and very, very serious and informative at the same time. My distribution platform used to just show me in the United States, this is 94% of the audience is in the United States, and 2% of the audience is in Canada, and 2% of the audience is UK, and 1% of the audience is Japan, and then all the rest of the many, many, many countries where this podcast has been listened to and downloaded were just listed as less than 1%. And I had no way of knowing if that was one download or many downloads. Less than 1% is just a small number. Well, very recently, the platform got updated, and now it's able to show me 0.8%, 0.4%, and the less than only starts at less than 0.01%, which means we can all now do the math internally on a variety of locations. And one of the ones that struck me was Ukraine. Our podcast, Casino Combat, has now been listened to and downloaded over 850 times in Ukraine, and that number continues to click up. It will be 1,000 in the not too distant future, or more than 1,000. The very idea that all that is going on in Ukraine, anyone is listening to this podcast, is listening to what I sat here in the glorious Casino Combat Studios in parts unknown and recorded and put out into the world is amazing. Amazing isn't the right word. I'm not capturing the right thought. I'm really not, but stunning, maybe? I don't know. I'm at... There we go. The Ramblin Gambler is at a loss for words over the idea that over 800 times someone in the boundaries of Ukraine listened to our podcast and found value in it. And maybe it was 850 individuals who only listened one time. That's certainly possible. I have no way of knowing. But I can't say it in Ukraine. I've just heard Ukrainians say it many times, both in English and Ukraine, because a large part of my family by marriage is from Ukraine originally. So hail the heroes in whatever way. I hope it helped. Just an amazing thing that the internet does for us. It really is. All right, let's get started with questions my sons ask.
What?
My sons ask questions about gambling and listeners ask questions about gambling, which is a wonderful thing when it happens. I had a great question recently, and what's interesting, well, it's interesting in its own right, but it came about as a result of someone emailing, trying to join the Excelsior Brigade, and coming up a little short. And that's fine. We give you 3 tries for a reason. You know, we use that rule for a reason. Everybody's not going to get it right all the time. Sometimes they need some corrections. In this case, I had to point out that while the guess was well done in several ways, some things were missing, including a hotel and a horse race track. And we had to send them back to the drawing board, as it were, on that one. So the follow-up email went like this. TRG, thank you for sending me down the rabbit hole again, LOL, which is true. They're going to have to go back and listen and make some additional efforts there. On another note, I do have a question about slot strategy el numero dos, especially on progressive jackpot slot games. The system states to use progressive and regressive betting, which I totally agree with, and actually it has been working fairly well so far. But my questions are as follows for, let's say, Dragon Links, Dragon Cash, Buffalo Link, Lightning Link, or any of the other multi-denomination slot machines. I've attached a spreadsheet, which is nowhere, he says in parentheses, which is nowhere nearly as nice as any of the other tools you so kindly give out freely. And that's just a compliment to Dr. ECE, Inner Circle member, fourth to the ring, for producing some of those other materials for us. I can't take any credit for that other than just hosting them on the website. But our squad mate continues, it shows the exact bets for each denomination. Should my progressive regressive strategy be as follows? See the bottom of my attached chart. And so on his chart, he has laid out all the various denominations, 1 cent, 2 cent, 5 cents, 10 cents, $1, $2. And if you used all of that range, so at 1 cent, on the machine that he's giving me the example for, you would bet 50 cents, $1, $1.50, $2.50, $5 per spin. That's one way to do it, if you just stayed at that denomination. And let me back up for just a second here. I should have done this at the beginning. If you're not familiar with TRG slot strategy el numero dos, you want to go to casinocombat.com, spell combat with a K, go to the Fred section and download Casino Combat Slot Tactics. It's an ebook. It's about 28 pages as I recall, and it lays out my slot playing strategies. A combination of strategies, TRG slot strategy number 1 and TRG slot strategy el numero dos, which work together as a synergistic pair to produce slot play strategies for us most months in cash, as well as generating tier points and free tax-free imaginary money. It shouldn't work. We all know it shouldn't work, can't beat slot machines, blah, 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 insert negatives here, except we've got months and months and months and months where admittedly often we lose some money playing slot machines with cash. That's TRG slot strategy el numero dos, but we make up that with nice wins on our free slot play, and then the extras are the tier points and the free imaginary tax-free imaginary money, and of course the comps that get generated from all of that. See the big picture. We make a lot of money playing slots, something no one should ever be able to do. We all know that it's impossible. Anyway, if you're not familiar with the strategy, that is where you would learn the strategy. But he is saying here, if he uses all the denominations, then it would go 50 cents, that's a 1 denomination spin, and then $1, that's a 1 cent denomination spin, and then he would jump up to the next denomination for a $1 spin at the 2 cent level, and then he would jump up to 125 at the 5 cent level, and then back down to the 1 cent level to do $1.50, and then $2 at the 2 cent level, and then $2.50 at the 1 cent level, and then $2.50 at the 5 cent level, and then $2.50 at the 10 cent level, and on and on and on and on. He is using the entire range of wagers from 50 cents at the small end at a 1 cent denomination, all the way up to, if needed, $50 at the $2 denomination level, and moving up and down between those wagers using the strategy across that entire range. It is a brilliant bit of thinking. It is a brilliant bit of analysis. It's well laid out, it's clear, it's coherent. And so let me give you my answer. Let me give you the answer as I sent it. I said, this is an interesting one. I saw your email over the weekend, but wanted to sit down in front of a computer and really look it over in detail. For the multi-denominational machines, I generally just play at the lowest denomination. And when I'm done, either positive or negative, I leave without changing denominations. I'm done for that machine. Without testing, my reaction is 8 spins instead of 4 at the $1 level, because you can switch denominations, is a recipe for a larger loss or a smaller win. This is an illustration. Real life doesn't work exactly like this, but the illustration will make the point. You've done 4 spins at 50 cents. No wins larger than 50 cents. This is right from the strategy, everybody. Then 4 spins at $1. No wins larger than $1. If you don't change denomination, the 9th spin is at $1.50. If you hit a bonus of some type, it's at that level. If you change denominations and do the 9th spin and get the same exact result, your win is reduced by 1/3 because the denomination, not the wager size, changed. I had a similar question fairly recently. That squad member was considering using the 1 cent, 2 cent, and 5 cent denominations to meta martingale the machine. So spin at the 1 cent level. If a positive exit occurs, done. If a negative exit happens, move up to the 2 cent denomination and repeat. If a negative exit occurs there, move to the 5 cent denomination and repeat. I don't know if it would work. On paper, it makes sense. It's more money than I personally want to put at risk in a slot machine. But it's clever thinking and a good application of basic casino combat principles. What I will observe is that at the higher denominations, even a modest bonus would exceed $1,200, which is a hand pay, and in many states, at minimum, state and local taxes must be withheld. In some states, federal taxes must be withheld as well. The point is that the win at a higher denomination could be enough to reach a positive exit, but after taxes are withheld, you have less cash money than you put into the machine. That should be meaningless at tax time, but personally it would bother me. For me, slots are a distraction from more serious gambling, a distraction that generates tier and reward points at a high level and generates free slot play. In combination, we often have a profit at the end of the month, but playing at larger denominations would be too much bankroll at risk on a high house advantage wager for me, and I hope that helps. If not, I'm happy to clarify. Feel free to send additional questions. I didn't get any follow-up questions, and that's fine, and maybe it'll just take time, which is fine, and I certainly hope I get follow-up applications for the Excelsior Brigade. Anyone that's thinking things through at that level of detail is putting in the work to be good at the game of casino gambling. Without a doubt and no question, that is certainly true in this case. And what do we see here again? We see here that wagering strategies, whether for blackjack or craps or Bach or whatever it is, whether it's for slots, are very much like Lego. Different people can take the same pieces and put them together different ways. I do think there's a compression that could be done here. I do think, and this is an expansion to my thoughts initially, I do think you could eliminate the redundant steps. So the places where moving between denominations, for instance, moving between 4 spins at $1 at a 1 cent denomination and 4 spins at $1 at a 2 cent denomination, you could compress those down. Wouldn't matter which denomination you pick, you're still spending $1, you're still getting tier credits for $1. There's a point in this chart where there are 4 spins at $2.50 at a 1 penny, 4 spins at $2.50 at a 5 cent denomination, and 4 spins at $2.50 at a 10 cent denomination. I do think you could crunch those down. Still only do 1 set of 4 spins at $1, still only do 1 set of 4 spins at $2.50, etc., etc., etc. There is a point later in his chart where he has 4 sets of 4 spins, all at $5 a spin, all at different denominations. I don't think, and look, we'll never know till we try. And then we never know till we try 1,000 times, whatever the statistically meaningful sample size is. We'll never know till we try, until we try enough times to have a meaningful sample size, having recorded all the data along the way. There is no way of knowing. I went into my first attempts with this system with extra money from a blackjack win, testing a theory which I was sure would not work. I was 100% convinced it would not work. And then it just did. And then it continued to do it. And then I started the podcast, and it continued to do it so well that when I looked at the written records, I said, I just got to tell people about this. I never intended to tell you guys about slot play. Never once did I, in the farthest corners of my mind, did I ever think that on this podcast, on our podcast, I was going to talk about slot play. No way. No freaking way, as many people would say. It just turned out it worked so well I had no choice but to tell you, because otherwise I wouldn't be transparent. So I don't know that this as laid out would not work. It is more money than I'm willing to put at risk. But it is interesting to think about, as I say, compressing it out. Still only do it going from 50 cents to $1, regardless of what denomination you pick, and doing 4 spins. And if you don't win more than $1, then instead of moving up to $1.50, change denominations and move up to $1.25. And then if you didn't win, go to $1.50 for your next set of spins by changing denomination and using denominations to give you variations on 50 cents, $1, $1.50, $2.50, and $5. Adding in $2 spins that aren't exist at a 1 cent denomination, but do exist at a 2 cent denomination. And then adding in the $3 spins and the $3.70 spins and the $6.25 spins, working out an entire chart of denominations is a condensation. That's not the word. A condensement. It's a shortening of this list of wagers into more than 5 wagers, but not repeating any and spacing them out in different ways at different amounts. That is very, very interesting. And I have no reason to believe that that would not work. It gives you a lot more range. It gives you a bigger range of wagers to work with. And that means you're going to get to the larger wagers less often. I would imagine that less often you are going to get to that $5 wager. And when you get to that $5 wager, it's not, this is a negative exit point and done, because you do still in fact have a $6.25 wager, a $7.50 wager, ultimately a $10 wager, a $20 wager, a $15 wager, I got it out of order there, a $30, a $25, a $40, a $50, lot more opportunities. Your negative exit, if you happen to fail all the way through, your negative exit is going to be much, much larger, but you have more opportunities to have success. You would need to structure the bankroll correctly, and I'm not sure I know exactly what correctly means in this case. I guess you would have to lay out your wager chart, have to do 4 wagers at each level, multiply all of that by 4, multiply all of that, or add all of that up to set what your buy-in should be for a single machine, and then decide how much depth you want to have. I would imagine I would want at least 5 machines of depth minimum. This is going to be a bigger bankroll. This is going to be a much bigger bankroll. It's also going to generate a lot more tier credits and a lot more free slot play and a lot more free tax-free imaginary money. And that's not necessarily a horrible or a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. That's not necessarily a negative. Played that way, it'd be interesting. Played that way, played by shortening this list so that you didn't repeat any of the wagers just by changing denominations, would be an interesting way to approach this. And if any of you decide to do that, if any of you decide to give that a serious test, please, please, please share with all of us. Email me. Let me know how the results go. Keep track of them. Let us know what you see and what you experience, because I would love to pass that along to the rest of the squad as well. All right, what is next on our battle plan? Next on our battle plan is Mrs. TRG with an Oasis segment to tell us about the pool complex on Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas.
Hi, I'm here to pick up my son Milo. There's no Milo here.
Who picked up my son from school?
Streaming only on Peacock.
I'm gonna need the name of everyone that could have a connection.
You don't understand. It was just the 5 of us.
So this was all planned.
What are you gonna do? I will do whatever it takes to get my son back.
I honestly didn't see this coming. These nice people killing each other.
All Her Fault, a new series streaming now only on Peacock.
Ford was built on the belief that the world doesn't get to decide what you're capable of. You do. So ask yourself, can you or can't you? Can you load up a Ford F-150 and build your dream with sweat and steel? Can you chase thrills and conquer curves in a Mustang? Can you take a Bronco to where the map ends and adventure begins? Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Ready, set, Ford.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Oasis segment of our Casino Combat podcast. Today I'm going to review my experience with the Harmony of the Seas pool complex. And as always, when I rate these features, I look at 4 areas: ambience and overall features of the pool area, easy access, food and drink, and the overall vibe that I'm feeling. Each area is worth 5 points for a total of 20 points. So the first section, the ambience and the features. The pool area had a really nice little toddler area. So if you're sailing with your little ones, there was a nice area, a fairly good size as well, that had some buckets that would dump water on the little ones. They even had their own little water slide, which I thought was really cute. Lots of different wheels and sensory things to turn and splash each other. And the parents were really enjoying wading around in that area with their toddlers as well. So I thought that was a really cute little area to help entertain your little ones. They had 2 average size rectangle pools. One was used all the time, and the other one also included some water sports activities such as volleyball, and they also offered like fitness aquatics during certain times of the day as well. They had their Perfect Storm water slides, 2 big water slides. Mr. TRG and I both had to go down on them and race to see who would win. Of course, this time I won. They had the Supercell water slide that looks like a giant toilet bowl that I tried this time too. The only thing is they did fair warn me that once you get going down the slide and into the big circular Supercell, most of the time people do get stuck, and then you have to kind of push your way around through the rest of the tunnel to the exit of it. And yes, I did get stuck, and I had to scoot around until I was able to get back to the part that kind of the water then pushed you out to the exit of the slide. But it was fun. I'm glad that I tried it. There are lots of chairs and cabanas, and you could rent some of the cabanas, but lots of different variety of chairs. We had no issues at all of trying to find a chair to sit in and to relax by the pool area. The boat also had their Flow Rider surfing area, which is a feature of most of the Royal Caribbean ships. We just haven't never gone on it. They do have like boogie boarding, and you can practice your surfing skills. I just don't think I'm very well hand-eye coordinated, balanced enough to give that a try. So I usually try to avoid that one. This ship also had a zip line, which was free of charge. Didn't get a chance to try it, but definitely am going to keep a lookout for that on our next cruise. I think that is something that I would like to enjoy, and hopefully TRG would join me as well, as we could zip line across the cruise ship. I think that would be a really cool thing. The adult pool, however, was really disappointing. There was no pool. Can you imagine that? An adult pool area with no pool? There were 2 levels to the solarium, which is located in the front of the ship. They did have several different whirlpools, lots of different chairs, a lot of variety of lounge chairs, and those big eggs that you can curl up in. They did have their own private bar, which was always nice because then you didn't have to fight through the crowd. But if you really got warm and you wanted to go take a dip, you had to leave that adult pool area. And it was obviously a short walk, but then you had to go put yourself amongst the crowd of the main pool. So it was really disappointing that there was no pool there. So for ambience and features, I rated this Harmony and Seas a 3 out of 5. I think just not having a pool in the adult, even if it was a small one, I think really brought my opinion part of that down. Easy access is a 5 out of 5. Everything is very easily accessible through the elevators. The walkways are clear. Lots of room where you can stretch out and relax. and where you could pick up towels and return towels as well, is always very well located. Food and drink, I also rated as a 5 out of 5. In the adult pool area, they did, as I mentioned before, had their own bar. They also had a food area which you could access both breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There was a little air-conditioned area there too where you could go in and sit down and relax in some of the air conditioning. The food was mainly the same kind of buffet style that you would find at the Windjammer also. Outside the main pool area, they had a little restaurant, Mini Bites, that you could go in there and pick up some food and bring it back to your chair. Different kinds of finger foods that you could order there with ice cream. And the main pool area also had a bar that you could get some drinks at as well. So I rated the food and drink a 5 out of 5. My overall vibe was basically a 5 out of 5. There was nice music playing. They did have some bands that were scheduled during the afternoons, so that was always very nice to listen to some live music. The views of the ocean obviously are always breathtaking. The area was relaxing. It was clean. So my overall vibe was a 5 out of 5. Giving the pool complex area, in my opinion, an 18 out of 20. You can agree or you can disagree. Doesn't matter. I'm the wife of a Rambler Gambler.
All right, full disclosure, as I look at this, I'm going to ramble a bit and I'm going to be a bit all over the board, and maybe that's okay. I want to, in this travel segment, talk about a tremendous cruise that we took, a wonderful cruise that we took, and focus on that, and focus on it from a travel aspect, and focus on it from, well, admittedly a results aspect. The results are fine, and I'll certainly share those, but I want to focus on it from a travel point of view, from a casino lifestyle point of view, and honestly, from a, boy, this sounds quiche. This sounds like I took a lesson from a Gen Zer. I wanted to come at this from a point of gratitude. We honestly do, and if it doesn't come through, then I've done a bad job. If it doesn't come through, that we still sometimes find ourselves in these situations and just kind of look at ourselves and go, is this really us? Is this really the way this works now? And I couldn't have done it without all of you, and I couldn't have done it without this podcast. So here's the story about the story to get to the story about the trip that has multiple stories. It was just a bit over a year ago, in episode 108, that I interviewed independent casino host Michael Feldman. It's a great interview. If you have not, you should go back and listen to it. It's very educational. We focused a lot on comps, how comps worked, how average daily theoretical scores work, how the process works. He was generous with his time. He was more generous with his knowledge and information. Yeah, we did a little commercial at the end for Premier Casino Hosting, and quite frankly, in hindsight, I wish we'd have talked them up more, because they are amazing, amazing people. It is amazing what they do for their guests, for their customers. It is amazing what good friends they really are, and what friends we've made through the process. So strongly encourage you, if you have not, to go listen to episode 108. Quite frankly, it's so good, you should just go listen to it again. It's a great episode. It's absolutely tremendous. You should go listen to it again. But after the formal interview part, Michael and I were just kind of talking about cruises and cruising, and he was encouraging me to give it a try. And I was, to say the least, reluctant. I'd been given cruise certificates from casinos in the past. They were for small inside rooms. I just was like, okay, I'm not sure I'm gonna like this. I'm not sure this is something I want to do. The upcharges were significant to get to a decent room. It just didn't seem like my thing. Small windowless space, kind of locked in. And Michael suggested that given the amount of time that I spend in casinos anyway, why not spend that time on a normal day in the casino and spend the rest of my time enjoying great food, great shows, and new locations. And I agreed that it made sense on that basis, but I still wasn't completely sure. And then he told me he was organizing a dice cruise with himself and one of his partners, who were both former Golden Touch craps instructors, and they would teach some classes. And I said, well, that might motivate me, and we wrapped up the conversation, and I thanked him. And I admit, I was really casual with him, but I wanted to go. I really wanted to go. I've said I don't know everything about gambling. I just want to, and I wanted to be on that ship, and I wanted to be around those people and people with that type of hardcore, in the nicest of ways, gambling backgrounds. And we didn't get to go on Dice Cruise 1, and that was our fault. We took our time. We couldn't decide. We didn't know. We'd never been on a cruise, and what was the schedule, and how would this work? And in that FOMO, in that fear of missing out, we missed out. But we managed to go on Dice Cruise 2, and we managed to go on Dice Cruise 2, not in a small little windowless room, but in a very nice balcony room that Michael and his team were able to set up based on our land-based play. And we left Dice Cruise 2 with 2 more comped cruises, one of which we used to comp ourselves on this cruise, Dice Cruise 3, and we really haven't looked back since then. We scheduled another cruise with our other comped cruise, and then we scheduled a comped cruise just because we had an offer from Royal Caribbean and we could, and we've pretty much agreed internally that we're just not really going back to Las Vegas. Certainly not going back to the Las Vegas Strip, but we're just not going back to Las Vegas in general because cruising is something we just enjoy more, and we get to do a whole lot of very, very interesting things. I talk about living a casino lifestyle. This is living the best kind of casino lifestyle, at least the best casino lifestyle that our action will get. You know, there are some people that play at a big enough level that when they're somewhere, whether it's their normal place in Atlantic City, whether that's where they hang out in Las Vegas, they are what are called point and get gamblers. They gamble at such a level that if they want something, they say politely, it's not really point and get, it's a phrase, but they just kind of say, hey, you know, I'd really like to go to this show. Oh, hey, I'd really like to go to this dinner. Oh, hey, I'd really like to have 4 more friends at that dinner. And it's all just fine. That is a tremendous casino lifestyle. I do not have the ability at this point in my life to play at that level. So cruising really has become a very, very amazing part of our casino lifestyle. Our gambling activity gets us comped on the cruises via Premier Casino hosting. After that, all our food, all our entertainment, potentially almost the entire vacation, if you want it to be, is comped. You don't have to do a drink package. Wi-Fi is a choice everybody can make. You can make your own excursion choices, but you could very easily make the comped cruise, other than the taxes and fees, the majority of the money that you spend. As I said, we had a comped balcony room. The casino has a gift of chocolate-covered strawberries for us waiting in the room when we arrive. When the casino opens, we have a couple days pay in free slot play available for us to get things started. And if, like this trip was a group trip, if it's a group trip, PCH arranges for us to get on board the ship early, in time to go have brunch on the boat and enjoy that. PCH has a welcome party for us with food and drinks and a swag bag. It all feels very VIP, or very normal if you're just used to the kind of casino lifestyle that PCH provides on their group trips. And this being our second PCH group cruise, it was like getting back together with friends and, of course, meeting some new friends. In fact, the wonderful last-minute surprise is that Inner Circle member Equine Ensign's sister and her husband were on this same cruise. And we got to spend time with them, we got to gamble with them, we got to have dinner with them, we got to do a variety of things with them. We clicked with them right off the bat. It wouldn't have been possible without PCH. It wouldn't have been possible without this podcast. It wouldn't have been possible without Equine Ensign's introduction. It is really a very cool and wonderful thing to get on a casino-focused cruise, or get on a cruise because of your casino focus, and then have other people there that already know you, that you already know, people to spend time with, people to hang out with when the casino isn't open. It was great all the way around. And I don't want to skip the results, although I'm largely going to skip the results, but we finished the cruise with a profit after expenses of a bit over 7 days' pay. And that's a profit after expenses that included Wi-Fi on the ship, a drink package, several excursions, airfare, hotel stays before and after the cruise, and multiple Ubers and things like that, and tips to get us around and get where we were going. So 7 days' pay after expenses is a really, really solid win. In fact, I'm going to have some more nuggets about that as we go along. Some more perspectives is a better word. I'm going to have some perspective on that wins for you as we move through the rest of this episode. We had a winning night to start the cruise, took a small loss the second night, and then didn't have another losing blackjack shoe the rest of the trip. And we didn't really do exits. It went so well that we just regrouped at the end of each shoe. And to be clear, I'm saying we would sit down and play 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shoes. And at the end of each shoe, we had a winning shoe the entire rest of the cruise. So we'd get to the end of the shoe, we'd record the amount won, and we'd start over. Sometimes Mrs. TRG had won 3 units, and I had won 7. And we'd record that, put that money away to cash it out, and then we'd go on. And sometimes she had a 14-unit win, and I had a 2-unit loss. And so we'd record the 12-unit win, and she'd give me the extra 2 chips, and we'd start over. After the second night, we didn't finish any shoe without recording a win. That is amazing. It is a lot of fun. That is the unicorn showing up and just going, oh, hey, I'm going to hang out with you guys for the rest of the cruise. This is pretty fun. Plus, I'm a unicorn. I'm stuck on the boat with you. So I'll just hang out with you while you win every single shoe. Full transparency, gotta be fully transparent. On the flip side, Devil's Lock, the slot machine, was not good to us. And we first found Devil's Lock on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. And we left that machine on that trip with a profit almost every time we played. This trip, we couldn't get the devil to do much of anything for us. In fact, we started playing a machine called Mo Mummy, and that's mummy, M-U-M-M-Y, not money. There is a mummy that roams around. We started playing that because the mummy did pay us out several times, new machine that we found. But that's important, right? I got off that boat saying, this machine is great. This machine is fabulous. We won every time we played practically. And if we didn't, the losses were small. It was wonderful. Not wonderful this time. Still love Devil's Lock. Still happy to play it when I see it, but it did not do well for us on this trip. We also tried to spend as much time as we could playing craps with the PCH group. And I gotta tell you, the game of craps played at my local casino and the game of craps as played by members of this group are 2 different games with 2 different sets of expectations. And quite frankly, we use different strategies when we're with these folks than we're not. These guys have spent time and effort and treasure and resources and honed their craft, honed their skills at playing the game of craps and playing it well. When I play locally, the expectation is a point is established as a quick big red and the dice move with almost every shooter. 3 to 5 tosses is the norm. 8 or 9 is a good hand. People are giving you attaboys. With this group, people often hold the dice for 20 plus tosses. And nobody gets really impressed till you start to get to 30 or more throws. They take over the table as a group. They run it with the pit crew. They run it with the dealers. Often they're more knowledgeable than the dealers. They put people in positions to throw where they want to throw. If some people have to move here or there, they don't mind. It is an amazing thing to just even peripherally be a small, tiny part of. To just watch this group of people, some of which have known each other for quite a while, who know what they do and know how they do it, and they just basically control the table, take over, and then the dice just keep going and going and going. When I considered starting this podcast, I knew exactly one gambler who was successful on any kind of regular basis, and that was not anybody other than the guy behind this microphone. Most of the craps players that go on PCH's dice cruise fit that description perfectly. They don't win every table. They don't win every time. Things happen. But there's an expectation that they are going to do well as individuals because they have skill and they know what they're doing. And in fact, I want to tell you about one player in particular. I want to tell you about Racer X.
Unknown to Speed, Racer X is his older brother Rex, who ran away from home years ago.
He needs to remain anonymous, or at least I'd prefer to allow him to remain anonymous unless he'd like to claim this handle for his own, in which case he is completely entitled to it. But Racer X...
Unknown to Speed, Racer X is his older brother Rex, who ran away from home years ago.
Is not only one of the most knowledgeable gamblers I have ever met, he is also a master at the game of craps with a level of personal control focus and discipline that I can only stand in envy of and try to emulate. It is amazing. One point, third or fourth night of the cruise, I'm with Equine Ensign's brother-in-law at one point at the end of the table, and Racer X,
unknown to Speed, Racer X is his older brother Rex, who ran away from home years ago,
has the dice at the other end of the table. He rolls, establishes a point, makes his bet, and then turns 90 degrees, putting his right shoulder toward the table. He crosses his arms at his waist and looks straight ahead into the middle distance, while craziness and noise and the entire casino is going on all around him. And keep in mind, this is a cruise ship casino. It's a bit small. The aisles are a bit narrow. Cash is being thrown on the table to make change. Box bets are getting tossed to the middle and called from both ends of the table. Bets are being made everywhere. Bets are being paid. The table's full. Everyone's making multiple bets. And it's like he has a cone of silence and calm all around him, like a shield. And eventually the stickman calls dice move, and Racer X,
unknown to Speed, Racer X is his older brother Rex, who ran away from home years ago,
turns, plants his feet, sets the dice, and makes his throw. And he turns 90 degrees, crosses his arms at the waist again, and looks straight ahead into the middle distance. And he waits. A gambling monk, in control of himself, oblivious and unfazed by the noise all around him, unbothered by 8 20-something women just a few feet away, standing around an unplayed slot machine, blowing huge clouds of smoke all around him. He held the dice for about 40 minutes. His roll ended when the dice caught the edge of a stack of chips and Big Red showed up. They say that game knows game when it sees it. I'm not sure that applies in this case. Let's rephrase that. In this case, an above average gambler knows greatness when he sees it. I've got a bit of work to do to be nearly as good as Racer X is. All right, what else? Let's see. Let's finish up our observations with this. It's an important topic. We think, and it's just an opinion, but we think we keep seeing examples of bias toward women from gamblers and dealers. And it's not rude. It's not abusive. It's almost just fighting to be seen in that space because women are not supposed to be seen there. Women, supposed is the right word. Expected, right? Go to slot machines. You're going to see, for the most part, an even or female heavy ratio of players at slot machines. Go to tables, particularly tables in resort areas, and you're going to see mostly men. And that's fine, but what we're noticing it creates what we perceive to be this bias. We had a couple situations where Mrs. TRG was playing either without me because I took a break at the end of a shoe, or because one of us saw a reason to change tables briefly, and repeatedly players would ask the table for advice, and she's there without me, and she would provide the correct answer, and she would be ignored, and a man would give a wrong answer, an answer she knows is wrong, and his answer would be accepted and acted on. Very, very frustrating for her. She's very good at the game of blackjack. She's a very disciplined, skilled gambler in the bigger sense of the word. And she just finds it very frustrating when she knows she's right in what she knows, and it's as if she's invisible, for lack of a better word. In fact, we see this even more at the craps table. She would often be the only woman playing and would struggle to get her voice heard and her bets made, just in general. Just generally speaking. Several times I said to her, honey, you're going to have to use your outside teacher voice instead of your inside Sunday school teacher voice if you want to get their attention. And she's tried to project a little more, be a little more snappy, if you will, in terms of telling the dealers what she wants, particularly at the craps table, instead of asking. But there was one particularly annoying situation, and it reflects kind of on the experience, and we had a great time, and I'm not even sure it fits as I think through it, but I'm going to tell you about it because it just stood out as being so different and somewhat an illustration of this. When PCH players take over a table, it is a whirlwind of activity. The activity level rises above what is normally seen. I mean, when we were on a cruise without the PCH group, we would often just ask them to open the craps table when we were ready to play, and then they'd close it when we were done, because there wasn't that level of activity. These craps tables never closed, and we're almost always surrounded by PCH players, and everybody's betting a lot. Some of the dealers were very good at handling this. There are a couple female dealers that would just take control, tell everybody politely to wait, then move around the table in sequence. First, paying everyone's bets, then taking everyone's new bets, making sure everything was correct, then moving the dice. But on our last night, during a craps session, we had a dealer who didn't have those particular skills, and perhaps wasn't used to the level of action that this group brings. I'll give the benefit of the doubt. But in this case, the point is made. People are calling out bets. Mrs. TRG puts her money down on the line between don't pass and come, so it's not a bet of any type. And she says, I want the 5 and 6, please. And the dealer says, just wait, and he takes another couple of bets from other players. There's a pause. Mrs. TRG repeats, I'd like the 5 and 6, please. He says, just wait. More bets. She makes the request one more time. Just wait. She's frustrated. I'm annoyed. The chips are still sitting there. She's asked multiple times. The boxman announces, dice move, and starts, at which point I got my outside voice and I said, they better not. My wife has asked 4 times for her bets to be made, and 4 times she was told to wait, and we are not waiting while the dice move. She would like the 5 and the 6. Perhaps overdone. Perhaps a little bit of annoyance there. Perhaps Racer X.
Unknown to Speed, Racer X is his older brother Rex, who ran away from home years ago.
Would have handled it better. Perhaps. I concede that. Someone a little more professional might have found a little better way to handle that. And maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe we are seeing what we think we are seeing and not what is really happening. Maybe the dealer was just having an off night. To be fair, let me tell the next part of this story, because it's very easy in this one to frame this as this dealer was just ignoring a female player. And quite frankly, I do think that's what was going on, but I'll be fair. Let me tell the next part of this story. I almost said the rest of the story, and if I'd have said it that way, I'd have used the voice. So let's not do the rest of the story. A couple tosses later, Mad Mac he's part of the PCH group. We met him on the previous cruise. He has bets on the 6 and 8, and the dice leave the table. And as many dealer players do, when this happens, he says, my bets are off. The same dealer ignores him. He waits a minute, the dice are checked, the dice are returned to the table. He says again, my bets are off. No response. Again, my bets are off. Other bets are being taken and changed. Kind of wrapping up the process here. Nothing is said. So he makes the kissing sound a couple of times. This is something that dealers do on cruise ships to signal each other and the pit bosses that they need their attention. So he does that a couple times and says, my bets are off. Still nothing. Mad Mac is clearly making a reasonable effort to be heard. Finally, as the dice are about to be moved, he waves his arms at the boxman and says, my bets are off, my bets are off. The dealer, who had ignored Mrs. TRG just a few minutes previously, looks at him, turns his bets off, and says, you've been on this ship for 7 days. You should know my name by now. I'm shocked. I'm stunned. Service and decorum are normally top-notch on these ships. And a few people down, Equine Ensign's brother-in-law is also not enjoying this. He speaks up and says, I've been on this ship for 7 days too. Do you know my name? I've been playing a lot of craps. I don't recognize you. We shouldn't need to call you by name to turn off our bets. It's pretty basic. And the issue kind of ended there. A couple tosses later, this guy rotated out to another position. Not Royal's finest moment. And one that I have to say is very unusual. And as I said, maybe we are seeing a woman being ignored issue when in reality it's this particular dealer on this particular day was being a jerk issue. And I don't know what else is going on in his life, but it does stand out in stark contrast to the rest of our experiences with the casino team and the cruise team in general when we take a trip like this. All right, I said last observation, but that's a lousy way to end a segment about what was truly a great casino trip, a great and amazing cruise, a wonderful way to spend our time. So let's finish with this tidbit instead. As we finished up our last night, we were very aware that we had a nice win put away, and we didn't want to mess that up. We also didn't want to stay out too late. We had a departure the next day. Mrs. TRG went to find one more Firelink machine to play, and I told her I was going to do one more small buy-in at a blackjack table while she was gone, that I would not do another buy-in, that if I lost, that was it, that was the small amount and I was done, but I was going to see if I could get another winning shoe or two in while she did her slot play, and then we'd grab a nightcap at the Schooner Bar and call it a night. And the table started out with myself and another gentleman, and he was a moderate skill player. He stood on all his 16s against a dealer's 10. He didn't double his 9 against a dealer's 3, but a very okay player, a better than okay player by cruise ship standards. And we were soon joined by an older fool with more money than sense, and then a younger guy and his girlfriend. And he had a very small amount of green and red chips. And by that, I mean, this is a $15 table, and he's got 2, maybe 3 green chips and 3-4 red chips. Less than $100. Not what I would consider enough to even sit down and play. Certainly not what I would consider a proper buy-in to actually play, and that's even allowing for the fact that she was just going to watch. She was very concerned, and he kept telling her to relax. He knew what he was doing. I got it, babe. I got it. I know what I'm doing. I know how to play this game. He didn't. He didn't have enough money to play, and he had more money than he had knowledge of how to play well. And so I'm oblivious to it. I don't care. I know that as a percentage of what we've won, and as a sense of what we've won and spent, that we're in good shape. That nothing I'm going to do on this table with the money I have in my pocket is going to turn this into a problem for us. So I'm just playing. I make a 2-unit bet and I lose. And then a 4-unit bet and I lose. And the girlfriend's eyes get big. And she starts apologizing for her boyfriend's play and blaming him and saying she's so sorry. And I said, Don't worry about it. I'm fine. It's no big deal. Please don't worry about it. Please just enjoy your evening. It's not going to matter to me either way. I do this on a regular basis. It's all going to be fine. And she says, you're scaring me. You are. You've got my car payment on this table. And I assured her that my car payment was safely in the bank and that most of my profits for the cruise were locked up in the safe and that it was going to be fine. She was uncomfortable with her boyfriend's bets between $15 and $25. And she was really uncomfortable that I was betting a good bit more than that. Clearly, we are at 2 different levels of expectation and risk tolerance. Very, very interesting to observe. And for me, interesting to observe how he's treating her. See previous comment about how somehow women almost become invisible for some people in this situation. She was certainly mostly invisible to him. So she wants her boyfriend to leave. And she's saying, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. We just came down for a few minutes. The show was great. Let's go do something else. He's losing and she isn't having fun. They should leave, honestly. Objectively, they should leave. But to get her to stick around, he hands her a $25 chip and tells her to play too. It'll be fun. And I suspect I rolled my eyes at this point. I probably did. This is a $15 table. He gave her $25 and told her to have fun. He might as well have patted her on the head. Like Cindy Lou Who is no more than 2. She has 1 chip. She has 1 bet, not 1 chip. She has 1 bet at most. No real chance of success. So she gets changed, bets $15 and loses. He bets his last green chip and loses. She says, come on, let's go. He asks the pit boss to confirm that he can charge more chips to his room. And when told yes, he says, great, give me $50 on a room charge. And I'm thinking, $50? $50? Clearly this guy is clueless and likely to lose. But more interesting to me is that he then is asked, how do you want those? And he takes 2 green chips and leaves her with only $10 and no way to play. And as he puts a green chip in the circle, she looks like she wants to strangle him. I mean, if looks could strangle him, he would be strangled right there. And I watch it all go on, and I just handed her a red chip and said, here. So you can at least play 1 more hand. So you don't have enough to play 1 more hand. And I give her the chip, and certainly I didn't consider it a loan. I figured that was a gift. But I wanted her to be able to meet the table minimum. And she gets an 8 and a 2 for a total of 10 against a dealer's 7. And the boyfriend, who has a junk hand that he's about to play wrong, looks at her and very over the shoulder says, oh, you should double that. Like dismissively. You should just double that. And she did roll her eyes, and she did look like she wanted to strangle him. And she kind of just gestures at the table in front of her, clearly saying, with what? I, of course, I did the right thing because now I'm amused and I really want to see where this is going to go. And I really don't care about the 3 red chips. So I give her the money for her to double. And as I said, I just considered it a gift. I didn't say anything either way. And she was a good sport. She won and she returned my money when she won. None of the winnings. She's a novice. She didn't know what she was doing. But at least she returned what I gave her, right? And she managed to play a few more hands before running out of money. And the boyfriend finally heard her saying it was time to leave, and he went all in for $30 and lost. You will always hear people say, often with a snicker, well, they don't build these casinos because people win. And that's very true. But there are so many people like this losing, particularly on a cruise ship, that the few of us who know how to win, we're fine. There are plenty of people like this couple that are gonna provide the profits for the companies to build the casinos and pay us. Truly, a great trip. We are already scheduled on Dice Cruise 4 with a lot of the same people. All right, heck with it. I'm going to ramble just a bit more. This is for educational purposes. This actually happened after the cruise, but this is for educational purposes. Apologies in advance if it sounds like a humble brag. It's really not intended that way. Honestly, I'm really surprised by how it all worked out. So this is just the surprise ending of this whole thing. And a tribute to Michael and his team at PCH. Our cruise offers as we were leaving the ship didn't include any return free play. And we had plenty of existing offers from Royal, so we didn't see a reason to tie up capital reserving our next cruise while we were still on the ship. On previous cruises, we would get these offers and we would be leaving multiple days' pay in free play for the next cruise unclaimed if we didn't book the cruise while we were still on the ship. In this case, that wasn't what was going on. Perhaps because we won. Perhaps because we won so much that they were like, yeah, we don't need to offer them anything extra to come back on. Not sure, don't know. That's me being a little bit superstitious. But we didn't book the next cruise while we were still on the ship. We saw no reason to do that. So we get home, we take a look at the schedule, take a look at the itinerary for Dice Cruise 4, and look at what's going on, and we know we just really want to join this group again. We just really want to be part of it. We want to see these people. We want to have those meals. We want to have those conversations. We want to be in those spaces. It's just something we really wanted to do. And I looked at our Royal offers on their website, and we both had certificates or offers for a balcony on a specific set of like 15, 20 cruises with some free play. But they also had a trade-in value for any other cruise we might want to take. So I took screenshots of all that, all the offer codes, and I sent those to Michael, and I said, you know, kind of, please, 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 right? That was my internal monologue, at least. It's like, are these enough? Like, Michael, can we take these and combine them and at least get enough value to get an ocean view room on Dice Cruise 4? And if not, what's it going to cost? And what would the upgrade to a balcony be? You can see I have pretty low expectations here, right? And the answer genuinely surprised me. I was coming from that place of, is this enough? Are these offers enough to get us on this longer 7-day cruise? What can we do here? And Michael's response was, let's just skip those and ask them first. Let's just ask them based on previous play. If we don't like the answer, then we can look at using the coupons and certificates and other options. And a few short hours later, I got his text. All set, balcony comped on Dice Cruise 4, based on previous play. I'll just need a credit card for taxes and fees. The taxes and fees are less than a day's pay. And we're on to the next comped Dice Cruise, even without an offer. Now, I am sure, I was talking about, and now I'm just completely off script. I've completely wandered in the weeds. I'm sorry, T-Rex. I said before that in Vegas and Atlantic City, we are certainly not point and get customers. And I do not think we are point and get customers now with Royal Caribbean. I do not think that's true at all. I'm sure there are 14-day Alaska cruises that they're not going to just comp us on. I'm sure there are cruises in Europe or Australia that they are just not going to just say, oh, you want to go? Sure, you can go. But it really feels like, and from the offers we have coming in, if we just want to bounce around in the Caribbean, if we just want to go on the Dice cruises, we may not be point and get, but it certainly feels like ask and get. And that is a very cool thing. That is an amazing thing. The value of this cruise, when you look at it online, is certainly more than we would be comfortable paying for. And all we did was use our previous play and ask, and we'll be back on that cruise with our friends. If we go back 1 year, I'd never been on a cruise. We have now been on 4 comped cruises, have a group of casino friends to cruise with a couple of times a year, and we are booked on 2 more comped cruises to wrap up 2024. I certainly learned more about living a casino lifestyle this year. Wouldn't have been possible without the podcast. Certainly would not have been possible without folks who are great at being independent casino hosts. Just a wonderful turn and development in ways that we can use our skills at the game of casino gambling to live a casino lifestyle. What a way to live. All right, let's do Core Koncepts segment, and then we'll wrap things up in the virtual VIP lounge.
Did you know that parents rank teaching financial literacy as the toughest life skill? That's where Greenlight comes in, the debit card and money app made for families. With Greenlight, you can send money quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and track spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn how to earn, save, and spend responsibly, while parents have peace of mind knowing smart money habits are being built. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Spotify.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes. Now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox. Clean feels good.
The core concepts of casino combat, concepts spelled, of course, with a K. These are the foundational ideas that I consider of primary importance to be good at the game of casino gambling. A set of ideas that I don't know how to win the bigger game without knowing and understanding these things. And it's been a minute since we've talked through them all. It's been a number of episodes. I've been told that it's important to remind everybody of these things, not just assume that they're going to the website and reading them, not just assume that they are going to the boot camp spelled with a K, playlist on the Casino Combat spelled with a K, YouTube channel, that I should reinforce these. So let's reinforce them, and then I'll get to what I want to talk about today. And this is going to be, it's beginner content, but at the same time, it's also very important content and can be very advanced content. So we're going to hit this from a couple of ways, but I'm coming at it from the point of view of a beginner. So let's go over the core concepts of casino combat fairly quickly. First up, learn to play one of the 4 casino games with wagers where the house only has a small advantage over the players and a reasonable amount of tier credits are awarded for that play. That would be 3-2 blackjack played with basic strategy, perhaps free bet blackjack. We could talk about that. Certainly Spanish 21 would fit in that category. One of the cruise lines calls Spanish 21, Super Fun 21. Any of the blackjack variants that pay 3-2 for blackjack or more and has a basic strategy chart that reduces the house advantage to less than 1% is an excellent choice, probably your best choice. Baccarat, and in particular, if it's commissionless Baccarat, then you can play player or bank. Craps, pass, don't pass line on craps, come, don't come on craps, and any of the 50-50 wagers on roulette. Red, black, even, odd, those types of things. And if we're being honest, the house advantage at red, black, even, odd roulette is so very high compared to blackjack or baccarat. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless it's just a case of, but my fill-in-the-blank person I'm with at the casino loves roulette and that's all they play. Well, okay, then roulette does fit our process. Next up, learn a wagering process that includes both progressive and regressive attributes, right? I don't believe that you can win the game of casino gambling with flat betting, even when the house has a very small advantage. We need a process of wagering in which we respond to a loss or series of losses with an increased wager. That's a regressive wager. That's a wager because we're losing. And we need to maximize when things go right for us. When the improbable happens in a good way and we win a bunch of wagers in a row, we need to go up after a win or a series of wins. The next core concept of Casino Combat: have a bankroll of money you can afford to lose that is larger than needed for the game, unit size, and wagering process you intend to use. Sounds easy. Have a bankroll of money that's appropriate. The reality is that good gamblers spend a lot of time in that math. What wagers am I going to make? What bankroll is needed to support that? What size win am I looking for? What happens if things go wrong? How do I make sure I still have enough money in my bankroll to continue playing? Next up, the easy one, the easy core concept. Get and use a player's card from every casino that you play in and look for ways to upgrade that card by way of tier matches with reward systems for other casinos, hotel chains, and cruise lines. That goes to the idea that we are playing the bigger game of casino gambling, and part of winning that game allows for the idea that we may lose some small amount of money, and that's okay as long as the comps and gifts exceed that in value. Next core concept: have the discipline to win a small set amount of money and leave, or lose a small set amount of money and leave. And that could be leave the table or leave the building, depending on factors of time and distance. In the end, try to win over a period of time: the month, the quarter, or the year, not the machine, the table, or the day. And there are two very important ideas here. The first is that no one wins every time. Anyone that tells you they win every time is not telling you things factually, or they have a very significant advanced play strategy. You can win a lot. About a year ago, I went 58 tries without taking a loss. It was amazing and glorious. But I still didn't win every table. I still left a table, increased my unit size, played, won, using the meta martingale. I certainly didn't win every slot machine. That never happens. Now, sometimes using TRG slot strategy El Numero Dos, you can win 10 of 12. Devil's Lock recently, I went like 27-4 or something like that, playing Devil's Lock. It's not to say a lot of winning doesn't sometimes happen, but this goes to the idea, this core concept goes to the idea that you are not going to win every attempt, and you are going to have some losing days, and the goal is to win over a period of time. I use a month because I tend to look at that as a reasonable way to break things down, the way a business would. If we're selling concrete and we don't sell any concrete today and we sell 3 loads of concrete tomorrow, we're not so concerned that we didn't sell them yesterday. The question is, do we get to the end and we sold enough concrete to pay all our bills, pay all our employees, have a profit for the owner? We're fine. And that's what we're trying to do in this case. And of course, as I said, if you have losses in the long run, make up those losses with comps and gifts from the casino. Profit from the relationship in some way. I'm not sure I care if the profit at the end of the month is hundreds of dollars of gift cards that I use for gas and groceries, or $100 of cash that I use for gas and groceries. Not sure that really matters. So the core concept that I wanted to talk about today, having talked through all of them with you, is try to win over the long run, the period of time, the month, the quarter, the year, the vacation, all reasonable goals to set, all reasonable ways to evaluate the time spent and money won. Don't care if I lost on Monday, if I won on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then went home, right? Doesn't matter. And so I wanted to talk to you about that today, and I wanted to show it to you through the lens of my wife, Mrs. TRG, the radiant goddess of casino combat. She had a great cruise, as I told you. She had a great cruise. I had a great cruise. She had a great cruise. But what's interesting is that she didn't have a great year. From her point of view, she didn't have a great year and a half. She had a lot more losing than winning. It had been bothering her. She had a great run in Atlantic City last year, and after losing all week, won it all back and a little more in one table in one evening. And that was great for that trip. And we've had some other moments here and there. But taken as a whole, she has had a really tough year or year and a half. And she hasn't played as much as a result of it. And she's busied herself with other things rather than coming to the casino with me when I was just playing locally, because she's retired and it's been bothering her. But here's the interesting thing. If you added up all her play, if you added up all the tables she's played, all the casino visits she's made, even including the trips and cruises and everything else, it's probably about the same amount of play that I do in a month to 6 weeks, depending on which month or which 6 weeks it is. If you look at number of tables she played, number of attempts she made. What do we have? We have a Sunday where she played one table because we went down, went to brunch, picked up a free gift, and she played one table. And she lost 7 units and she decided she was done. And she waited for me to finish what I was doing and we left. Well, that same week, I would have had multiple tables on Monday, multiple tables on Tuesday, multiple tables on Wednesday, Thursday, and then come down with her on Sunday. I play a lot more time, and that's where this gets to be really interesting, this idea of play over time. It would have been easy for someone to look at the year and a half of play she had and say, oh, this doesn't work, I'm just not going to do this anymore. Would have been. And there are certainly some smaller slices of time there where we went someplace for the weekend, I won, she didn't. She spent more time at the pool, I spent more time playing. We got done, we went home, we had won money as a couple, we'd had a wonderful date weekend, we'd had some nice meals, we'd enjoyed the pool, we enjoyed a show, but she didn't win. We won, we were fine, but she didn't win. And it'd be easy enough to look at that and go, well, it's fine, it is what it is. I just can't do this. I'm just not good at this. This just doesn't work. Very easy to take that point of view. Very easy to look at it that way. Here's the reality. All that play for a year and a half, as I said, probably equal to a month or 6 weeks of my play. And in one cruise, she won all of that and more. If her time period that she was playing for was 18 months, in which she did the same amount of play that I do in a month to 6 weeks, if we counted attempts, in a relatively low amount of attempts, she has a really nice profit. Now, that is changing names and dates to protect the innocent and the guilty. That is looking at time and looking at a moment in time and saying, oh, well, look, now everything's fine. But that is the point, and that is the point of Casino Combat. At no moment was her actual bankroll in jeopardy. Often when she was losing, I was winning or winning more, or we were breaking even. And over that period of time, she now, if we cut it off right here and start over, has a profit. And then what would we do? We'd look at the 2 comped cruises she received. We'd look at the free slot play she's received. We'd look at the free meals she's received. We'd look at the room upgrades we get from a regular room comp to a suite comp with Caesars, because we take her rewards and my rewards and combined our scores, and our ADT elevates us to a nicer room at Caesars. Take all of that. Okay, for this, call it 18 months, she now has a nice profit. A couple days pay as profit. And literally probably with the cruises, $7,000 to $10,000 in comps. You're a winner. Congratulations. You have just won the game of casino gambling. And the point I'm trying to make here is, if you do this infrequently, if you go once a month and do this, then over the course of a year, you're going to try 12 times. That's about 2 weeks for me. And I'm not saying you should play at my level, and I'm not saying I should play at your level. What I'm saying is level doesn't matter, but evaluate over a period of time. If you're only playing once a month and you go and you play 2-3 tables, you lose your small set amount and leave, you win your small set amount and leave. Well, if you do that 3 times over 3 months and you're negative, you just did the first, second, and third of the month for me. And if you're comparing to my results, then that's kind of skewed. That's kind of out of focus. You might need to look at it from the point of view of Mrs. TRG's lens and focus. She played a little loss, played a little loss, played a little loss, played a little loss, picking up comps along the way. Those are very important. then had a win that offset some of the losses for that trip, but really didn't get her ahead for that block of time. Then she didn't really play much for like 6 weeks. And then we went on a trip and she played a bunch, and she came off the trip and she'd lost a little bit of money. She had some wins, she had some losses, but she's still losing. Then we step on a cruise ship and she just wins basically the entire time she is there and comes off with more than enough money to make up for all that had been lost previously. And a big chunk of money has been received in comps over that same time. And that's the bigger game of casino gambling. And that's why these core concepts are important, to help us put everything in focus, be aware of everything. If you only play occasionally, keep in mind that you then should only evaluate after a reasonable number of tries, a reasonable number of attempts. You are not going to win them all. Not every day, not every machine, not every table. But over the long period of time, I really think that most of us find that we've won money, and we've won a lot more in comps and gifts, because they will give away the comps and the gifts in attempts to beat people that don't have the discipline to do the other core concepts. All right, next up, let's go to the virtual VIP lounge for some sips and some stories from an Inner Circle member about a blackjack tournament he was recently in.
A little bit of the bubbly.
Welcome to the most must-listen-to segment in casino lifestyle podcasting, the Virtual VIP Lounge, and our lounge is open, and we have the best virtual everything virtually all the time. The best virtual food and drink served in any virtual VIP lounge anywhere on the interwebs, guaranteed or your money back. As always, if you can, press pause, pour yourself something, fix a plate, join me in a beverage. We're going to go a little hard today. You know, I poured a double of Crown Royal Apple because my duties as the host of our Casino Combat podcast are relatively limited today. So join me in a drink if you can. This is an easy one for me to enjoy because Inner Circle member Gator Gambler, fifth to the ring, was just in Las Vegas for a blackjack tournament. He is a very, very skilled tournament player, and he is going to join us today and tell us about his experiences in Las Vegas in his own words. And I am so grateful to him for taking the time to share this with all of us. Without further ado, as they say, our squad mate, gambler extraordinaire, Inner Circle member, Gator Gambler.
Shaq here, spinning fast-acting pain relief with Icy Hot. Ice works fast, heat makes it last. Icy Hot, you're so back.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
It's been almost a week since I returned from the desert, and I'm just starting to recover. But TRG asked me to put my phone on record and hopefully share some insight with the squad regarding the blackjack tournament that I just participated in. So last week I traveled out to Las Vegas. I got in Thursday night. The blackjack tournament started on Friday, and it was Friday and Saturday. When I booked, they didn't really provide any additional information, so I wasn't sure what to expect. When I got up and down to the casino on Friday morning, I stopped at the Unity Rewards at Mirage and asked for details on the blackjack tournament, and they just told me to show up in the ballroom at 5 o'clock. So that's what I did. When I got into the ballroom, they had a registration table in there. They asked for my ID and my player's card, and they had a little wallet type billfold thing with the cards where you were seated, so table and seat. So I found out basically that round one there were two sessions in round one. There was a 5 p.m. and a 6 p.m. I actually played in the 6 p.m. session. There were 4 people at a table. There were about 15 tables for round one, and they took the first top finisher from each table to move on to Saturday to play in what they called the semifinals. So in my first round, my strategy was pretty much the same. I was going to be aggressive from the start. They had 15 hands, and the little chip or puck moved after every hand, and that's how they determined where the betting started. You bet in order. You can bet as little as $1,000 and as much as you wanted. There was no maximum. If you got a blackjack and you got a $500 chip, you could not bet it until you got another one. So again, the minimum was 1,000. In the first round, they gave you 20,000 starting chips, and I basically bet the table minimum $1,000 until I was the last one to bet. And then once I was the last one to bet, I bet half of my stack, and then I continued to bet half of my stack until I lost. So on the first round, I was at a significant lead. Two guys at my table busted themselves out, so there was only one person that I had to worry about. And when it came down to the final hand, the 15th hand, you had to write on a card what your bet was going to be, and then they would verify it, and then the chips would be placed. So I basically bet the table minimum $1,000. I didn't have to wager anymore. The other person that was left could not catch me. So that was fun. Made it to day 2, which was Saturday, and that was going to start at 2 p.m. So I got into the ballroom again. This time there were 6 people at a table, and again started with the same 20,000 in chips, and I basically had the same strategy. You know, everybody was playing very cautious. They were betting, minimum until we got to at least like hand 10 is what I noticed from watching the previous night, round 1, the first session, and playing in the session that I played in. So again, my strategy was going to be the same. I was going to bet the table minimum of 1,000 until I was the last one to bet, and then I was going to basically bet half of my stack and continue betting half of my stack until I lost. So I did that again, and I had a pretty convincing lead. I was up to like 50,000 in chips in the first 5 hands, and everybody else was again betting 1,000. So I think the most somebody had was maybe 25,000. And then they started to realize that they needed to start to begin betting bigger in order to either not have me run away with it or to even have a chance when we came down to the 15th hand. When we started, there was one person that didn't show up, and what they said was every hand that goes by, they take 1,000 chips, and then as long as they come before the 4th hand is over, they can keep playing. If not, they will take all the chips. And the person that was late, she got there on the 4th hand, so she was able to sit down. And she was pretty aggressive from the beginning. She basically, in 4 hands, put herself out by betting basically half, the first hand she bet half and she lost. And then the next hand she bet it all and she won. And then she continued trying to bet it all, and she ended up, like I said, 4 hands in, putting herself out. So that left 5 people at the table, and the one guy, he couldn't get anything, and he was huffing and puffing the whole time. What a lot of people don't realize is in these tournaments, you're not playing basic strategy, you're not playing against the dealer, you're basically changing your strategy to play against the other players and potentially do things that you normally wouldn't do to sabotage them, or at least try to sabotage them. So there were a lot of hands where I was betting at the beginning before I started to up my wagering. I was betting 1,000, and I was doing things like doubling down on 14, splitting 10s when I had 2 face cards. And again, I was just trying to mess up the deck and hope that I just came out on top and had enough chips when we came down to the 15th hand. But I continued to play like that. I think I got my stack up to like 70 some thousand, and then he started losing a few hands, and then I went back to being a little cautious, betting the table minimum of 1,000. And I think we had like, I don't know, 5 hands left, and I had a pretty convincing lead. I had like 64,000, I think, something like that. And the next closest player to me had half. He had like 31,000 or 32,000. And so, and then, you know, we continued to play. I kept betting 1,000, and unfortunately I hit a few, like on the next 4 hands. One of them I hit blackjack. One of them I had a double down, and I could have easily pulled away and probably been at 100,000 if I would have been like just stayed aggressive. And I did not. And so one other person was basically betting their whole stack, and they ended up eliminating themselves after I did something crazy, and I pulled, you know, I think on that one I split, and I ended up pulling the 10 that they would have got, and they needed it. They ended up pulling a 2 and then busting with a 10. So, you know, what I did at least worked to eliminate one other person. So it was down to myself and 4 other people, and the guy that just couldn't get anything going. He was getting super frustrated, and he just shoved all in on like the 12th hand. I mean, he had a stack that wasn't even close to, even if he made it to the final, he couldn't do anything. So he knocked himself out on like the 12th hand or 13th hand. And then it basically was 3 of us left at the table. Me was 61 or 62,000. Another guy with like 30,000. And then a guy that had like half the stack that I had. So, I basically, I think I ended up betting, it was like 22,000. It was basically enough to cover the first guy that was, you know, second place if he would have won. He got dealt 2 10s, 2 face cards. The guy in second got dealt a blackjack, and I got dealt an ace 4, and the dealer had, I think, like a 4, 5, or 6. And so the guy that had half as much as me and was first to act, split, and he pulled like 19 on one hand and 20 on another. The guy with blackjack, instead of, he didn't have any money, but you could have doubled if you had money. But he ended up, you know, getting paid 3-2, 1.5 times. So it came down to me, and because the guy split and basically had me covered now, I had to double down. And again, I had an ace 4, and I doubled down for whatever I had left, and I ended up pulling a 6, and so I had 21. The dealer, I think, ended up pulling a 20, so I won. The guy that in first position, he pushed on one of his hands and lost on one of his hands, so he basically didn't move. And then the guy with blackjack, obviously, he, you know, won 1.5 times, so it wasn't enough. So realistically, the only way that I win that is to do what I did. And luckily for me, I got the card that I needed, and it worked out. So then I made it to the final table. There were, again, 6 of us at the final table. I didn't know anyone. This was really my first or second time kind of playing at the Mirage since Hard Rock took over. It's not a property that I really would go into at all. And again, the only reason I started playing there is I'm from Florida. I used to play at all the Hard Rock properties quite a bit. I also have a credit line, which I thought would carry over, but that was not the case. They made me apply for a new one when the first time I went in there and tried to use it. But back to the, don't let me get off on a rant here. So I made it to the final table, myself and 5 other guys. One guy who basically said this is really special to him. He's been playing there since 1989, so like 35 years. He's a great guy. There was a few other guys, and again, my plan was to be aggressive. Before we sat down, there was a powwow of the minds of the 6 people, and normally when you get to a final table, I've been lucky to be in a few. I won when I was like 16 years old. I won a craps tournament in the Bahamas. I also won a blackjack tournament in the Bahamas. I've also won a blackjack tournament at the SLS before it was rebranded to the Sahara. So I've been to my share of final tables, and what normally happens is the people get together and they want to come up with a way to chop the pot. In this case, the pot was $100,000 in promotional chips, and one guy wanted to, let's just take the 100,000, go into the high limit pit, have one person play $5,000 hands and see what we could run it up to. And then when we're all said and done, split the money. I like the idea. I actually like the idea a lot, but unfortunately, the other 4 guys didn't want to do that. So what they came up with was the way that the split was proposed was person who finishes in first would get 25,000 in promotional chips. And the other thing with these promotional chips, some promotional chips, depending on the casino, are one-time use, and some are play till you lose. These were play till you lose, so that made it a little more, lucrative, hopefully. So it was the agreed upon proposal was 25,000 to first place, and first place had to pay the tip in cash to the dealers of $1,000. And then the other 5 of us got $15,000 in promotional chips. So again, they did up the starting chip amount for the final table. The starting chip amount was, I think 75,000 from 20,000 on the previous 2 rounds. So I came out super aggressive. I bet 25,000 on my first hand, and I ended up getting a great hand, and unfortunately the dealer pulled to like 5 card or 6 card. Actually, I think it was 7 card 20 or something. It was crazy. It might have even been 8 card 20 now that I think about it, but it was a ton of aces, and it was just crazy. So I ended up losing my first hand, but I ended up crawling my way back over the next several hands, and I had a chance. Again, this was 15 hands. You bet in order. The last bet, you write it down, and then the floor verifies it and announces what your bet was. A few people had knocked themselves out. I think out of 6, 2 people had already put themselves out of contention to finish in first. It went one guy, the guy with the chip lead had like 142.5. The second guy had like 120. I had like 90, and another guy had like 60. And of course, I think I actually had 90,500, but I couldn't bet the 500. So I went all in, and I was dealt like a 14 or something against a dealer 6. No, it was a 4. I got dealt a 14 against a dealer 7. So I ended up busting. Guy that was in second had like 18. The guy who was in first split, got 2 20s. The guy that was in last, he had like a 19. And the dealer ended up with basically 20. So the dealer beat everybody except for the guy that split, and he ended up winning. He said it was really special to him. Again, he had been playing there since like 1989. He was a great guy. His name was Michael. He was there with his wife, who also played in the tournament, but she was eliminated in round 1. And so what we did was we got certificates. We had to go take those certificates with the floor supervisor who was running the tournament over to the cage. And basically they had you sign the certificate once after the tournament to like verify that you won, and then once at the cage to verify that you were taking possession of the promotional chips. So basically all 6 of us stayed there. We put the 100,000 in chips together after they individually gave them out to us. The guy in first took his 25,000, and again he had to, before we left the tournament room, he had tipped the dealers $1,000 in cash. He took his 25,000, gave 15,000 to everybody else. And what we did was we all went into the high limit pit, or lounge or room, whatever you want to call it, at Mirage, and we went to the baccarat table. We had asked ahead of time if they would allow us to basically one person bet banker and one person bet player, and he said, yeah, there's two ways you can do it. If you want to do it on your own, you can do it yourself. You can bet one promotional chip, and then you have to have a real chip to match it. So they would only break these promotional chips down into $1,000 increments, was the smallest that they were willing to go. So I had 15 $1,000 promotional chips, and instead of having to use my own money, what I did was I partnered with a guy who also had 15,000. And because I didn't want it to take extremely long or have to sit there, all night betting one chip at a time, I put 15,000 on player. He put 15,000 on banker. One of us was going to win. One of us was going to lose. The person that won got to keep the promotional chips and also got paid in real chips. And if banker hit and won, we would have to pay 5% commission. So we had figured, worst case scenario, we had, $15,000 on banker. What could have happened is every time if the banker would have won, we could have paid 5%. So like the max that we could have lost for 30,000 in promotional chips was 5% commission, or $1,500. And what ended up happening was we basically ended up hitting player every single time except for one. So we got extremely lucky. And on the one that we hit, I want to say it might have been the very first. No, it definitely wasn't. I'm trying to remember. We only had to pay 175 each. So we paid 350 in commission. So we had 7,000 out there. Yeah, we had 7,000 the hand that we hit banker. So we had to hit player first, and then 15,000 reduced. Yeah, so it was the second hand that we played. Because basically we had 15,000 on player, we had 15,000 on banker. We lost the banker on the first hand. We had 15,000 real money and 15,000 in promotional chips. And we basically cut it in half. So that was basically, couldn't break the promotional chip. So we kept one off to the side. We had 7,000 on player and 7,000 on banker the second time. So it was the second hand that we hit banker. Every other hand we hit player, and we only again had to, from between tipping out the dealer after we were done, which we each tipped $125, and the commission that we paid, we each walked away with $14,700 in real money after we basically just washed the promotional chips at the baccarat table, which in my opinion is the best way to achieve the most profit possible. I mean, yes, you could go sit down and play $1,000 hands at high limit blackjack, but I don't know, again, how successful you'd be. I also wanted to convert my promotional chips to cash as much as I could because I had to pay off some markers from the night before. So it worked out well. Would have worked out a lot better if I would have went to bed early the night before, but I did not, and we all know how that goes. Fortunately for me, I got lucky. I made it to the final table, got to a situation where I was able to chop the pot and, go to the baccarat table and basically rinse or wash those promotional chips for real chips and, pay off my markers and clear profit after paying my markers of almost 5,000. I did take that 5,000 into the high limit and went and played blackjack, and I was able to run that up to it was 4,700, and I was able to run that up to 10,000. And so 15,000, which was 5 that I came with and 10 in profit, excluding the $10,000 in markers that I had to pay back. So it was a great win. It was a great weekend. From what I understood, what we learned when we were at the final table, it was the last blackjack tournament at the Mirage before they closed down and tear the place down to renovate to build a guitar hotel. Unfortunately, I also learned that they're basically laying off all staff, and I got to meet a great dealer. Her name was Rita in the High Limit. She was such a sweetheart, and the day prior, she had put it out into the universe that I was going to make it to the final table, and she was right. I made sure I took care of her. I also used some of my resort credit to buy her a filet dinner from the steakhouse at Mirage Heritage on my last night, and which I ended up cutting my trip short by a day because my wife was at home sick, so I came home early. But all in all, it was a great trip, and I'm happy to be able to share this experience with the squad. And obviously, if you have any questions, please let TRG know, or if you're in the Slack channel, ask me and I'll answer them directly.
All right. Sounds like a blast. Sounds like a great time. Wish I had those types of skills. I do not do particularly well in tournament play, or at least I haven't yet. So appreciate G Squared taking the time to share that with all of us. Please tip your waitresses, tip your bartenders, tip your dealers. If you have a host, tip your host. Remember your casino wisdoms, everybody. Don't tip away your wins. I have spoken. Everything you heard here is true from a certain point of view. In 10 years, we may find out I was wrong about all of this. It's time for leaving, and I hope you understand I was born a rambling man. Love it, hate it, it don't matter. Please share with your family and friends. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the gift of your time. It is greatly appreciated. The Casino Combat Blues are next, the very best part of the podcast.
For Atlantic City Empress, Casino Combat's ace. There are profits in the casino tonight, I can feel it in my bones. I had a premonition, you should probably play alone. I know the house has an advantage, but that's part of the thrill. If we follow the core concepts, the chips begin to spill. So baby, here's your player's card, put your bankroll in your hand. Use just some of that money now, do it just the way we planned. Just follow the core concepts and you could win several grand. Well, it's good if it goes down like that, don't have to play to lose. It's gambling as a business, the Casino Combat Blues. Casino Combat Blues. The dealers and the pit bosses, the security and the law, the winning and the losing and the tricks nobody saw. No matter if it's blackjack, roulette or craps, you gotta carry defense cause you always carry cash. There's lots of shady characters, lots of dirty deals. Everybody has an alias cause that's more fun we feel. It's the lure of winning money, it's got a very strong appeal. Perhaps you'd understand it better standing in my shoes. It's the ultimate enticement, it's the Casino Combat Blues. Casino Combat Blues. Whoa. Ooh.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contrast. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.